Hey, what is up, all you cool cats and kittens out there? My name is Olivia. You are currently listening or watching the Orange Blossom Special Show. This is a podcast dedicated to my dad, the ones we have lost, humor, and just as Joe Dirt says, just keeping on through life. I just wanted to take time to say thank you for listening or watching this wherever you are at. You can hit that follow or that subscribe button to keep updated with more information and more content to come. So with that, we're going to get started with today's episode. Again, thank you so much. So before we get started with today's episode, because I don't want to say it's like a sad one, but before we get started with today's episode, I do have an announcement to make. One, my website is finally live. And two, I am running the New York City Marathon this year. I am running it with Fred's team. And if you don't know about Fred's team, we raise money for cancer research that goes to Memorial Sloan Kettering. I was supposed to run the New York City Marathon last year, but I was in a car accident and literally almost died. So they were kind enough to let me run it again this year. The cool thing about Fred's team is the money that you donate goes directly to the cancer research of your choice. So if you have lost someone like me, I lost my uncle Jimmy to stomach cancer, you can donate to that. Breast cancer, my friend Savannah is almost done beating breast cancer. So shout out to her. Love you. I hope you are free the first Sunday of November if you are listening to this. And I know a lot of us have had family members affected by cancer, and a lot of us have lost loved ones to cancer. So I reached out to them. They were kind enough to let me join their team. So thank you so much, Fred's team. And I'm excited to be running. And here's the thing. Okay. And I'm going to get like kind of inspirational here for a second. Okay. So I ran cross country in high school and I ran cross country in college. I was decent at it enough to like run in college, but I was never like the fastest person on my team. Like I was never on the state championship team, like things like that. Okay. My teams that I were on were very, very fast. Okay. You get better by being with the fastest and the best people, point blank, period. But I think it's important to recognize that like we all have talents and gifts. And I think sometimes in life, you think that if you're not the best at something, that your talent and gifts are being wasted. As I think Bree says, it was like on all of our running shirts in high school, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And you can't compare your best to someone else's best, and you can't compare the level of your talent to someone else's talent, because if you are willing to be used as a vessel, you can make so much more of an impact. And I think so many of us get lost in the fact that I don't have as many followers as that person, or I don't have as much money as that person, so I'm unqualified. And God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Okay. And to me, being able to run this marathon, I feel like it's so symbolic of the fact that like I have literally been running my whole life, and I have had to fight tooth and nail for everything that has happened to me working my way up. The thing I love about running, and I was having a conversation with a friend about this with track the other day, is two people can be running and training at the same time for two completely different things. One person can be training to have a PR. One person can be training to run something a year from now. And that doesn't make either one better or worse. It just makes it different. For me, running has always been a very healing thing. And I think it's just a reminder that you don't need to be the best at something to be useful. You just need to be willing to use your gifts in the best capacity possible. And that is my little rant tidbit on running and using your gifts. So today's going to be kind of like a sadder episode. We're going to like talk about grief and stuff. Okay. So going into grief and the reason why we are gathered here today, everyone. The reason why I'm starting this podcast, because my dad died and want to continue his legacy and keep on moving it forward. So Friday, July 19th was the 1 year anniversary of my dad passing away. And it's been like a very weird thing, like a very weird feeling, because I think with grief and things like that, there's no one size fit all with how you heal. There's no one size fit all with how you are supposed to feel. You don't compare yourself to other people's journey, because there are people who experience grief and they go back to work every single day and they keep on pressing it forward. And it's like, I was in that predicament for a second, and then I almost got in a car accident and was working on finishing grad school. And now I'm like starting this podcast and trying to figure out like life steps. Like I have my real estate license here in Tampa. I'm working on helping one of my friends start a baking business. So if you have not heard of Baked Blessings in Tampa, make sure you go follow their Instagram. Belle's the owner. She literally makes the best dessert I can bake. Okay. So when I tell my friends who know that I can bake that this woman is like chef's kiss from God, amazing. Like you need to go buy her cookies and you need to buy them today. Phenomenal. We ship across the US. But for me, it's been like this process of there's no one size fit all. And it's been, this past year has been an uphill battle. And I told my therapist, year to date, if I'm talking about last July to this past July, I have achieved a lot and I'm getting better. I ran an hour for the first time yesterday, and I haven't literally done that over a year. Because I was still having like some issues with running last year when my dad passed away. And I feel we're finally getting to the light at the end of the tunnel. But I do think that it's important to recognize there's some days where you're going to have bad brain days. There's some days where you're going to have a bad day. And when you're dealing with things like grief, your body doesn't physically know the difference, whether you have a broken arm or not. Your brain processes it as the same thing. And, you know, I'm a very, very huge advocate for mental health and recognizing that it's okay to not be okay. And so many of my friends, we have all lost someone very close to us within this past year. And I've had so many conversations with friends who, like me, have lost a parent. And the one piece of feedback that I have gotten is that it's this unspoken thing and no one wants to be able to talk about it. And so I'm thinking, okay, we are actually going to talk about it, because I think in life, you lose someone and life moves on. Like there's no, I can press pause on my life and just be able to feel things for a second. And it's just this eerie feeling of, I just lost one of the most important people in my life to me, and every single person around me is okay, and I internally just want to scream and cry, and I can't. I mean, you can't. That's just the internal feeling. And I think so many people, we just walk around and we just pretend everything's okay, not realizing that there are other people who are feeling the same exact things as you are, and we won't know that until we actually take time to talk I've lost kids who've like lost parents, and it's like one of those things where you have to learn to grow with this now, with this room that you have. And I think the best example that I can think of, this might be bad to say, but I'm going to say it because this is one of those things. My parents were chiropractors, x-rayed a lot of people. So if you get shot, sometimes taking the bullet out of you is going to cause more harm than good. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes if you get shot, taking the bullet out is going to do more harm than good to you. And they just have to like literally let it say it. And I know that because my parents had x-rayed quite a number of people who had bullets in them, okay? And it's one of those things where you now have something inside of you that is never going to be able to come out. You have to learn to live with it in you every single day. And you have to figure out ways to cope, manage, deal with pain, and it's always a constant reminder that you're there. And I am a Christian, and I do think that sometimes the church does they do a really bad job, because it's, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And it's one of those things where trauma and grief is something that you cannot see, but there are like physical effects from it. And I have been dealing with a similar effect of having a concussion and stuff. It's like everyone wants to give you their opinion on how you're supposed to heal and move on and do things. But I finally went to a neurologist. This isn't normal. And everyone who wants to be holistic wants to tell you what to do because it worked for them. But if you have a broken light switch, it doesn't matter which way you flip it, it's not gonna turn on. I understand like people need help, and I understand that there are things that help, but it's one of those things where you do have to like work through it, and you do have to allow yourself to heal all the time, and you have to put systems and processes in place to allow you to heal. Like I finally started getting therapy, I think it was like January of this year, and my therapist was like, there's a night and day difference. I'm like, I know, because I know that I mentally was not okay, and I need someone to help me process these things, so we can have a plan and move on in a healthy way. For me, I feel like it's been like I've had traumatic things happen back to back. So for me, when you go through something very traumatic, physically or mentally, you can get, we call trauma brain, but it's doomsday. Anxiety is really bad. You start thinking of the worst things possible. Your brain just goes to very dark places very quickly. And it's one of those things, like legitimately, it will go away with time, but you have to recognize that. It's the same deal as if you break a leg, break an arm. It's the broken bone isn't going to heal today, but it will progressively heal over time. And I think that's what we need to understand with grief. And I have had this conversation with one of my friends multiple times. I feel like I'm really not doing anything. I'm like, no, but you physically being here is doing something. And I think sometimes what I need people from the church to understand is sometimes you just need to just physically be around people, and that is enough, and that is okay, and just give people the space to let them be. Don't try to shove things down people's throats. Don't try to give your unsolicited opinion. Just ask, what do you need? How can I be of help? And sometimes the answer legitimately is, I just need you to sit with me and physically be with me and allow me to have someone in my space and in my corner to process things. And I think that especially being in women's groups and stuff, I think that's one thing that like we fail to recognize is that sometimes you just need to physically be around people. I mean, I'm an extrovert, so sometimes it's like, I just need to physically be around people and I feel I feel better. But like having 5 different people give me their 5 different opinions can be like overwhelming, because it's like, can we just give each other a second? And I remember, like, no hate, no shade, no tea. But I think if we just start asking, if someone is in this space and someone is, whatever it is that they are going through, what is going to make you feel better? Instead of try XYZ, I think is a better way to flip the script a little bit. And yeah. And the one thing that all of my dad's friends said is that he was a soundboard. And that is something that I also tried to emulate. Yes, my dad, he could command a room. And like me, we were definitely certified yappers. I can talk a lot. I can talk to a wall. I'm literally doing that right now. But I think the other aspect is that he was a soundboard to his friends, which meant that if someone was having a rough day and they just needed to vent and talk to him, he gave space for people to be able to do that and not judge them. That's the key thing. Not judge them for how they were handling things, for what it is that they were going through, but just made space for them to be able to talk and process their emotions. You're having a really rough day, your boss is pissing you off, and you just want to talk to someone about it. And my dad was definitely that type of person. And I think especially, this is something that I feel too, that I don't think we as a society are very good at. If someone comes to you and tells you something in confidence, whether it be a mistake that they made or something that you were going through, you don't go tell that to your best friend. You don't go tell that to your family. You hold on to that because someone trusts you and feels as if you are a safe enough space where they can tell you something in confidence without judgment, without expecting you to go and tell the whole world. And I say this as a female, people like to gossip, and there's this whole joke where you tell me something and I'm going to go tell my sister and my best friend. And the thing is especially like if someone has made a mistake, you should be able to hone it and not gossip and tell the whole world about it. It's very evident the people who do and don't do that. And with trust and things like that, and with having solid friendships and relationships, there is nothing worse telling someone something in confidence and then finding out they told a bunch of people who you did not want to know. And that maybe sound like very high school, but it still goes on, and I still see it. And I think part of finding good friends with people who have character and morals is paying attention to what they say, how they treat other people, what it is that they're talking about. And I think with this whole like grief process, you realize who your real friends are. And I feel like a huge pruning in your relationships in some type of way, because you realize that the people who are actually there will make space for you and the people who aren't won't. It's important to find people to lean on, and it's important to be the type of person who people can also lean on you as well. And I also think that we do a bad job with like comparing trauma and comparing things that someone has gone through. And going back to running, it's like if someone goes and they run a 30-minute PR and they did their best that day, and someone runs a 20-minute PR and they did their best that day, both people put in equal effort and had different results. And there is nothing wrong with that. And I think that we get into this mentality of I'm going through this, but I don't have it as bad as so-and-so. Or, you're going through something, but I have it 10 times worse. And it's like pain is pain. Pain is pain is pain is pain. Like someone mourning the fact that they won't be able to have kids is still equally as tough as the single 30-year-old who's mourning the fact that like they haven't been married or they might not get married. And both of those things are equally rough on both sets of people. And instead of fighting over who has it harder, like recognizing, okay, like you're going through something, I'm going through something, we're going to get through this together. The only way out is through has been the motto for me this past week. And I think it's an important mentality to have, because grief, especially when you are first experiencing it, is such a weird thing, especially going through it. And for me being like, okay, this was the first year. And I don't say like it's going to get easier or gets better. It feels weird, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I have had friends who have also gone through tough things this year, and neither of like what we have experienced is like better or worse. But when you have the mentality that like I'm with you, whatever it is that you're going through, and we're going to be okay, that is how you're able to heal and progressively move along. But I hate throwing yourself a pity party doesn't do anything to help you progress. And that is kind of how my mentality has always been. And I know maybe that's like not the best mentality to have. I think it's important for you to, one, accept the trauma and things that have happened to you, learn to process your emotions, and learn that it's okay for you to feel anger. It's okay for you to feel sadness. It's okay for you to feel things. You have to let your body experience those things, not hold them in, but you have to like feel it, experiencing it, and then learn to let it go. Because harboring pain, harboring resentment, sadness there's nothing that can be done to bring the person or thing that you've lost back. The only thing that you can do is try to keep their memory. For me, I feel like try to keep their memory alive, try to keep moving forward and learn ways to cope, be happy in life. And like people who say like, oh, I have it worse than you, like are probably not people who you should be around. I think it's just weird. Like we live in a broken world. You're not guaranteed anything. And I think you just have to live life to the fullest. That's what my dad did every day. Like he just tried to live his life the best that he could. And that at the end of the day is really all that you can do. But I remember like a pastor growing up saying, like, if you focus so much on the fact that the sun is set, you'll never turn around to see it rise. And I think with grief and trauma, it's a very important thing. And I'm saying this as someone who like literally has been through the ringer physically, mentally, emotionally this past year. And I finally feel as if I am seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I have to give myself space for the fact that it may have taken longer than I thought, but we're still getting there. And everything will come when it's supposed to come. As my dad would say, like, go dig for gold every single day. And if you do that, you're going to end up being all right. But I just wanted to take the time again to say thank you so much for listening and watching this. I appreciate it. Remember that life is too short not to take your morning shit and have your coffee every day. My website is currently live, www.orangeblossom.specialmedia.com. Make sure you go check it out. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.